Chris, have you ever recommended a product that you had been using for a while, you found really useful, that you liked, but you were not paying for?
Certainly. I think that's a whole strategy in itself for software companies.
Yes, I think there's that's an entire GTM motion, right? Freemium products or some kind of time limited usage or just straight usage constraint, right? You can use something for a while, fall in love with it, and dark social share it or share it on uh, light social, whatever that would be. Um, we talk a lot about how somebody goes from being in the kind of expansive, broad audience or maybe even potential audience for a business, and how um, having a fair exchange of value kind of at each gate or milestone of a relationship that we have with them helps bring them through what we call the value path to the champion stage, right? Ultimately, we are trying to produce, hopefully, people who we have been co successful with and who love what we produce for them, how we produce it, how it makes them feel, etc. Um, we have our value path. There's 8 stages that represent that journey: audience, researcher, hand raiser, buyer, and then transitioning into value creator, not just customer bucket, adopter, advocate, and champion. And those second four kind of represent that part of the journey there where we talked about, getting somebody to being a raving fan. Here's our value path. This is a little bit of an abstraction, right? And we advocate thinking about a relationship with prospects and customers like this because it enables the individuals participating, the company, to stop just thinking about how big a bucket is, how many MQLs are in a bucket. If you want to measure MQLs, that's fine, whatever. But it's really more important where the people are on that journey and how they experience value and how it helps them move forward. That abstraction from audience through champion has a fulcrum in the middle, that dividing line between the two sides, where some form of transaction has happened. But the question here, as a company starts to apply a framework like Value First to what they do for customers, that question is, okay, but how does this fit how our customers expect or experience value? How does this fit how we find them and how they find us? How does this fit what's unique about us and our customers? It's a field similar questions like that when implementing the Who First framework with clients. And the answer is, I think fundamentally, the answer is all analogies break down. And this is like scaffolding in a guide to think about how to have more value dense relationships with your customers. This is not some kind of carved in marble way that every business should operate. So the example of have you ever been a champion for a product you weren't paying for um, points at this question, right? How do we take this value path framework and use it to describe how we hear or observe our customers coming to value with our product? That's a whole topic for a 10 show series. Um, so that we can recognize and make use of it, right? We can't cram go to market motions and the ways that customers buy into this framework. We want to use this framework to describe it and how they purchase. Um,
Yeah,
Anything on that before we want to pull that diagram back up?
this one
Yeah.
looks a little better. Yeah, I mean, like, this is why we start every engagement with you're not allowed to talk about tools. Like, the if you cannot get out of how am I supposed to measure that? Oh, our process looks like this. How do we know when to activate them as a buyer or customer or somebody that we're supposed to pay attention to? Well, the CRM says we're supposed to label it like this. HubSpot's reports, the last life cycle stage reporting can only work like in this one way. Like, instead, what we offer, and like, again, like the numbering is really just for human consumption and readability, and like having like, can we just have at least one like thing
Right.
that
Or
could work?
yeah, I mean, I would phrase it as a starting point, right? This
Right.
represents a lot of relationships, and
Yeah.
the question is like, okay, does our relationship with customers align with most? And turns out, edge cases make up the world. Uh, it's not always going to align.
Yeah. And when you, so there's two ways. I mean, there's two ways to come at it from. It's like, yes, if both ways are determined by your buyer, like not you, right? And you look at this and it's like, does our buyer actually flow through this in this order? If they don't, you throw the numbers away, you throw the order away, and look at the statement that you think they're making. I am learning, I am researching, I need help, I am buying. Same on the other side, right? And that you can just say, is this true for this buyer in this moment? If so, they are in that stage,
Yeah.
right? And this, like, freemium models exist in physical manufacturing spaces too. And guess what? Everybody's terrible at at tracking and reporting on. It's like giving you free stuff that, oh my God, the amount of resources that went into installing that in your facility, because we know it's the only way you're going to pay for anything. And it's like a sales cost,
Right.
sometimes a marketing cost. And it's like in a spreadsheet because it doesn't work in our stages. And like, but it also happens to be one of the best ways to get you to buy the thing. And if we were to track it in some kind of way, it would have the best conversion rates and you'd be able to monitor and improve the experience, cut costs, follow up on time. There's deals that fall through because we just forgot it was out in the field. We weren't corresponding with them and they didn't even know they had it in the facility. We didn't even make sure they opened the box, right? And when you get really excited with the person that's decided to like, oh yeah, let's get it in here, and we'll be sure to start using it, give you feedback, like, right? Who's often it's not that person that's responsible for
Yeah.
using the thing, giving the feedback, and if we aren't helping that person, so in this case, let's say, um, I guess like so, if it was let's say a freemium model, um, they have gone they've gone like a little jump from they're buying the idea of having this product. So they've like there's a transaction there, and but now they're in great value mode, right? So that
Yeah.
person has caused both sides to expend resources,
Right.
and if I or that other person does not create value, people are not going to be happy, but the people around us might still be in audience stage. And
Right.
I am learning about whether this can work for that market like it did in this other market on my side, or if it's actually an upgrade to what we're doing, if we need to transform, if we do want to like experience change management pain
Right. I
to
mean,
do this
audience,
thing.
oftentimes I am learning is even like, I am learning if this is even related to the problem that I think it solves because it's not clear to me, right? Like some of that stuff can be super early.
Right. So, and this is where like, I mean, how can you, if you accept that the path is nonlinear, you just have to kind of throw everything you know about how systems are supposed to work out the window. And in that moment, even though that person is in value creator, right? They might create some value and then be like, oh, I didn't realize our scientists had to be so involved. So I got some more learning to do
Right.
about how we do this. And now it's like, all right, send it back. We're not ready for this right now. We got to learn, oh, I don't know, maybe what AI processes look like. And I realize now it wasn't expected. It wasn't what I expected at all. And we're not ready for this.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I would say it is, or that I would layer onto that is the, the, the more tightly coupled you are with customers, meaning you don't just have 10,000 customers and you just view them as a pinata. If you are engaging with customers, the more of them you have, the better you understand their journeys, the more you will recognize that this framework of the value path is the highest level of the framework. And what this actually is, when you start to implement it across segments and at a lower level, is it's value loops actually. And you will reuse these stages kind of in subsets of where they are in their journey, to think about things. So an example here is, and I love that you said, brought up the phase one, we don't talk about tools, we talk about problems and processes and things. Um, we always say that, in my experience, that's successful about 20% of the time because everybody comes into it through the door of the tool that they're using. And the questions are like, well, right, but what property do I set after X happens? And we're trying to say, like, no, we're coming up a level. We're trying to talk about the people and how value flows and how the business works. But the map here is like even a freemium as an example. There are a lot of freemium tools that you can use free on a limited basis forever, right? And that is not enough of a similarity to tell you what the value path for any two of those tools would look like, whether they are identical or not, right? Um, Somebody who signs up for a free tool or a free tier of a tool, is depending on the value exchange between the customer and the company, that conversion could go a lot of places in this, or we could use any one of these to represent that conversion. I'll get a little bit more specific in a second, but the thing that defines it is for the segment or the pattern among customers, or for the individual, if you are able to identify what stage they are actually in. So, researcher is a very common phase for somebody to sign up for a free trial or sign up for a free tier of a tool and poke around. Sometimes, they do a one-click Google sign up, poke around for 5 minutes, and then think maybe I'll come back to this, and then never do, and never delete the account. But they are researching, right? Like they have moved into a um, a phase where they're trying to figure out what something like, does this tool do what I think it does? Does it do it in the way that I like to do these things? Does it do it to the extent that I needed to do these, right? Like if we take something that like, what's an awful piece of software? Time tracking is an awful piece of software, right? A free time tracking tool. It's like, well, can I see my calendar the way I like to do it? How hard is it to backfill something when I forgot to start it? Can it pull stuff directly off my calendar and just pre-fill? Like somebody might have all of these different angles and facets, and they're trying to figure out in 5 minutes, like, okay, how high is this friction bar if I were to use this tool? That is like they've already converted. They're not a customer yet. Um, they're they're maybe even pre-user as they're just poking around, but they're fully in the research stage. If that is a free forever plan, we might keep them from a categorization standpoint in a user bucket. In that buyer stage, the bottom of the path to value, um, kind of doesn't make sense until we start putting upgrade opportunities and things in front of them. So they might actually go from researcher if they don't have a, hey, engage me in that product experience. If it's predominantly self-serve, hand raising might be demoted, or we might think about that as a service opportunity or something like that. But they are very quickly going into a value creator, which is the like, oh, in our example, that might be like, I see how this works. I'm going to connect accounts and I'm going to start using it, maybe intentionally as a like, I'm going to use it for a month and see how it works, or I'm going to intentionally use it and then they fall off, right? But value creator is like, okay, I'm now using this tool to start to extract value from the usage, my time reports, whatever. And then adopter, we might say like, okay, that's when we start looking into like they are a retained user in that model, even if they're free, right? Like they are now, we are supporting their receipt of value from using the tool by um, nudging them, helping them backfill, um, you know, re- uh, telling them about the features that help them with, you know, total time tracking that they are trying to achieve, or how to do things easier, or cool, like, whatever value add features and things that it offers above time tracking. And advocate and champion, if it's a solo time tracking tool, we may not think about advocate as super important, but champion we would absolutely think about as super important, right? Because that's your word of mouth marketing, where somebody is sticking their neck out, putting their reputation on the line by recommending a tool. And buyer might happen when dollars exchange hands in that model. And then we would re-enter some of these path of value stages where if they upgrade, we want to make sure they are creating that incremental value for the upgrade. They are adopting the new capabilities and features. And again, maybe we skip advocate, but maybe they become a champion for paid features, etc., working with partners or similar, right? The understanding this, the two phases and the stages independently and what they represent is like the first thing to understanding and transforming the way you think about delivering value for customers. The second thing is to know ultimately your customers are the ones who describe how they receive value from you, and you need the organizations that can recognize and respond to that, that can learn what that is through interviews, conversations, um, data, are the ones who will be able to construct these journeys for customers that are just like intensely delivering value for customers at every stage of that interaction, and not just throwing them into a bucket.
Yeah. I I'm scrambling to pull up this diagram to try and like how much this enables in terms of tracking this stuff effectively inside of a system, right? Relates to all of the things that we're supposed to be, responsible for in terms of revenue, understanding the flow of resources in and out of the organization. That attribution cannot happen without this level of understanding or without this kind of architecture in place. And um and it's always been interesting for me of how well this translates between hardware, software, really not any, but there's always a moment of the response to I need help. It's classically at least three buckets. Do you want help doing it yourself? Do you want to do it with somebody? Do you want somebody to do it for you?
Right.
In so many purchases, like and even B2C, you're all right, it was easy. How do I even open this thing? Let me go onto YouTube.
Right.
At that level, right? I think that in some cases there are people available in spaces to oh, I can come and open that thing for you. If you're worried about breaking it, I can come do the setup for you. It was never even a part of the purchase, but now you've realized you need help, right? And so I've got it up on the screen, right? And so what happens, since we usually only have sales, right? It's whatever the biggest ticket thing that a team that's getting compensated for sales, they're going to focus often on the biggest ticket item. And even though it's a very complex sale, and a lot of expertise from a lot of like value in the form of expertise needs to be delivered to have any chance of being successful with the big ticket item, that people often pay for that level of value from an expertise perspective. So that moment of I need help, if it's I want to do it myself, and it would be the most valuable outcome, but I have no idea how to get there, that's consulting and coaching. Like
Hmm.
that's where that lives. And let's say in this diagram where you were researching whatever the freemium model is, you're like, okay, this is working for me. And this happens a lot with AI right now. Man, I got some really great results. I've already created value, but how in the hell am I going to bring this to others on my team? And even though we have some smart people that I know they could do it themselves just as easily, but we got to figure out how to bring this together. Right. Well, if you want coaching, right? Maybe that's what you're signing up for. And
Right.
that once a week coaching thing works. And I'm adopting that
Right.
here. And then it's all right, we're at a point where basically these kind of phases or these stages have transpired during the coaching event. And now we want to solve this greater problem of AI native transformation, right? What we've learned during the process is this team might be ready, right now. They're actively engaging and asking for help. They're raising their hand. How do we do this? How do we get more of this? How can I do it myself? How do we handle the budget? What are credits going to look like? Tokens, right? Versus other teams in finance, let's say, are man, it seems scary to let AI loose in any of our finances. Like, you can show in a CRM like HubSpot that this team is in this stage for transformation. This team is in this stage for coaching and consulting. And this team doesn't really have time and doesn't like talking about things, but they really like digging into stuff. So we're going to associate their stage that they're in with workshops, one-to-one activations,
Right.
which brings us back to like this whole spread of revenue streams that are available when you can look at it from this perspective that end up in the most complex of purchases. You don't just get the complex thing. It has to come with onboarding, training, service contracts, all of the separated stuff that you're like, man, it's so complex. I don't want to think about it. Can we just sell the big ticket thing because that's what I'm in charge of? And then the whole sales process is all about building the package of all of the things. And then, oh man, we've got some expansion opportunity, Oaks. Like, we should really focus on service contracts by themselves, on consulting by itself. Well, we thought that was complex back in the day, so we can't look at any data to say how good are we at that.
Right.
What are the chances? Do we even know how to sell that part by itself? Likely we do not, because it's
Right.
always sold in the version of the package.
Or you
I've
know
got
how to
some
sell it
baggage.
just via brute force, right?
Right.
Like you just
I've
call
got,
up and be like, "You got any needs? Okay, great. Let me give you a service package quote."
yeah. And like all of that stuff, because we only care about the marquee item, if you're important enough, we'll just throw it in.
Right.
We'll just throw it in.
Right.
So then it's like, oh, what's our margin on that? We don't know. Literally, it's been out in the field. They've been using it for like 3 to 6 months. We haven't been communicating with them at all because they're not like in line for the purchase package or free trialer. So we haven't been tracking very much. Maybe they're using it. Maybe they're getting a ton of value, and we haven't been tracking anything. And now we try to process it and formalize it with this just misunderstanding of how humans are actually going through these stages, right? And all we're saying is like embrace nonlinearity because that's what human behavior is. And it's not where there's a will, there's a way here. Like you can do it, and AI can help you do it now,
Yep.
whereas it would have been, and often it's the most complex piece. If you look at the revenue bow tie, like any model that's like gets serious about all the different ways that a business can drive revenue, right? It's complex, but when you can handle it at the systems level now with the help of AI, you can get AI prep for meetings, AI post call reports that like, yeah, this person sounds like, oh, maybe they're in researcher mode. They kind of like they see the value over here, but that's really like in those moments, it's a consult that we're having,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe they're like a good buyer for that right now. Like that's available to us, right?
Yeah. Yep. Um, yeah. The that's a great way to think about it because the I mean to extrapolate a little bit more. We're kind of at the top of the hour here, but is that you know the a lot of organizations sell every product using the same pipeline, whether that literally means the pipeline in their CRM or it just means they approach them all the same, right? And recognizing that everybody might walk in through the same door, but the so trying to sell them the same thing, is not always successful, but that those ways that they experience value is part of the purchase decision that they are trying to make. And so moving to thinking about like, well, this team has a specific need. And so the pattern that we recognize is this is kind of the order of operations of these paths, right? And um, being able to serve that decision making process better, right? Like, not every segment, not every product within an organization has the same pipeline, and certainly doesn't have the same path to value.
Yeah. And if you're out there and that stuff is making sense to you, but you're not sure how it would look or how you'd move to it, like we're not super sure either. Like it's the opposite of everything you've been taught, and the way that these our software platforms, no matter how much we love them, they've got all of this funnel thinking built in, and it's not necessarily replacing all that because it's pretty hard to undo all of that and keep all of your historical data. There's plenty of ways to layer it on top and start to understand, oh, in our organization, lead has actually meant researcher, the audience has been subscriber,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows what that data looks like. So let's
Right.
focus on researcher and hand raiser and start there, right? It's so much of this is just a mindset of understanding that we have the technology now to embrace what the buying journey actually is for human. And maybe it's something like you know, CX scores, as we start to get help from AI to like put all of this context together, and your stages look different from everybody else's. It's like, hey, did we even know that this person went through one of the stages, three of the stages, five of the stages? And as we handled them appropriately with context, there's like there's a trust level. Like all of this comes back to the relationship
Yeah.
and the strength of the relationship, and things like sentiment analysis like are going to drive towards this. And that as long as we showed up for the human in the way that they asked for every time, it doesn't matter what stage they're in. Like it's when the need comes for them to purchase or tell somebody, we didn't even go into the fact that they might not even buy the product, but they're excited to tell the next person who they know needs
Right.
it. We didn't even talk about that. Where you're like, all right, researcher, value creator, champion, which is like 30% of the HubSpot community, I think.
Right.
Right? There's
Yeah.
a
I mean,
ton of value there.
there's a lot of people that that just like, uh, even at the baseline of like, oh, I this isn't for me, but I recognize it's a great product for somebody and who it might be great for, and we'll make those recommendations, right?
Yes, indeed. Um, and maybe this is one of those things. We need more people talking about there's a path here. It's called the value path, and we think it's the answer to a lot of funnel pain that has existed over the years. So we're going to keep talking to you about it. Thanks so much, Mr. Oakes. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.